What happens when a young boy... What happens when a young sickly boy dies and is reborn as an undead? Find out in this review.
That Man and His Manga.
Hello and welcome to That Man. That is me merchandise and me manga. And today we're going to be looking at a light novel. That's right, we haven't done one of them in quite some time. The reason being, well, a few other projects have came up and I just haven't really been checking out many new light novels. At least not from the start anyway. But I thought we'd check something a little bit different out, and I thought I'd pick up Yen Press's recent release of The King of the Dead at the Dark Palace. Now, this has been written by Tsukage, and you guys may recognise that name. I know I did. I was sitting there just like, who is this? Who is this person? I recognise them, but I don't know where from. They actually written the rather superb Defeating the Demon Lord is a Cinch If You've Got a Ringer. A title that I still have not covered. But it was one that I read quite some time ago, and I believe it had about 1 to 4 volumes before just kind of disappearing. And it's obvious as to why. It's one of those series where, as much as I like that one, it kind of is a little bit forgettable. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this series kind of is a little bit in the same vein. It's a fun series. It's one that I will recommend to you guys. But ultimately, it's one that I kind of forgot that I read rather quickly after reading it. Now, this is another one of your dark fantasy titles. And you know what? It's a pretty good one. A young, sickly boy, he sadly passes away. However, his body is reanimated by a mad lich scientist, mage guy, who's just like, you are the end, you're going to be called the end, and you will obey me. Now this lich, I'm going to call him a lich because they're kind of the masters of the undead. He's got this palace and he's just got all of these servants which are like skeletons and stuff like that, and he takes out young End's corpse, or whatever you want to call it, out every day, trains them up, and of course End becomes super overpowered. End fortunately has regained his consciousness now, however, and he knows that the Master doesn't know that he has his own free will, and he uses that to try and plot ways against the Master. In some ways, it's interesting how it's done. It's like one of those ones where you kind of know what the outcome's going to be, but it's an interesting journey along the way. Now, End isn't on his own in this crusade. There's other people in the mansion, and most notably, well, a young slave girl who, well, let's face it, she's a slave. And this, don't worry, this is not one of those ones where it glorifies the whole, oh, well, I've got a slave and she's going to be my waifu girl. You know, like certain other series, it's not that kind of cringe. But it does kind of reinforce the whole feeling of loneliness, the whole feeling of that nothing's really going to get better. This is not a series that I feel is going to have a happy end. And that's reinforced a few times. And you know what? That's what I quite liked about this series. It wasn't one of those ones where as soon as he becomes overpowered, he just punches the mage in his face and then he just goes wandering away and just takes over the entire world. No, this is one where everything's very slow, it's very calculated, and much like with the whole Defeating the Demon Lord If You've Got a Ringer series, it feels like it's kind of expanding on things that has been built up elsewhere. Of course, Defeating the Demon Lord If You've Got a Ringer felt very much like Konosuba. And this one, I'm not gonna lie, this feels like kind of a bit like Overlord. If you like Overlord, you're probably gonna have a really good time with this one. Overlord with vampires, and not vampires that pad their chest, that I'm aware of. So yeah, End is getting stronger and stronger. He's trying to think of ways to outwit the Master and outwit his underlings, and he soon gets a bit of a opportunity when the powerful knights, of course, the knights of justice and spirituality, they all appear nearby trying to hunt down a lich. And yeah, he soon gets his opportunity. Now, one of the things that I kind of was a little bit upset with, and it is something that is even on the front cover. Yeah, so we've got End here, and we've got a beautiful knight. What's happening there? Oh, he's biting her. Well, there goes one of the main plot points in one of the series. So yeah, he manages to discover this beautiful knight who's supposed to be like, she's supposed to be the next best thing in knighthood, you know, the next best thing. She could be a protagonist in another series, you know, like the hero. And well, he manages to, well, get her on his side, so to speak. And yeah, things work out from there. I know this is kind of one of those things where people will be like, oh, well, you spoiled it, and it's kind of like, well, it's on the front cover. You know that he's going to bite her and turn her into a vampire. It's on the cover. It's like, yeah, and this is one of the things where I kind of felt like the biggest, or one of the biggest plot points of it was unfortunately spoiled by the cover art, which, oh well, can't be helped. But there is a lot of other great stuff, and like I said, this is not a series with a happy ending. There is a lot of brutality, there's a lot of horrible things happening to good people in this, and there's a lot of good people who are not good people, and they're just their own source of justice. Which, yeah, again, it's kind of tropey. Like I said, this is not something I would probably see as unique, but it always felt unique. I couldn't stop turning the pages. I loved every second of this one. And I was quite surprised because when I finished it, I was just kind of like, yeah, you know, it was fine. It was somewhat forgettable. But I enjoyed every second of reading this. I couldn't stop turning the pages. All of the characters in here I really liked. The enemy mage, or lich, or what you want to call it. Yeah, he is a great antagonist. The knights, yeah, you get the whole sense of justice, or their sense of justice, of what they're thinking. You do sympathise with End and the slave girl, obviously forced into situations where, well, let's face it, it's either that or you're just going to die anyway. And in some ways, that might be a better option for them. It does make you question a few things, and I did like that. I did really like that aspect of it. But at the end of the day, it's also one where I kind of felt, you know what, this could have been a few more chapters. This could be 2 volumes. They could expand on this, and you know what, I'll be happy with that. I mean, it's one of those ones where at the very end it just goes, but things are only just beginning, and you're just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, because of course he's probably going to take over the entire world with being overpowered and being inspired by Overlord, because yeah, that's happened to a lot of series. But you know what, I'm kind of in this. I mean, I'm kind of flip-flopping between, oh, I don't know if I want to buy any more, to I can't wait for more. And that's always a good thing with these light novels, is that if I want more, I've got more to come. It's one of those ones where, like I said, I loved every second of it. I loved the characters. I loved the world that they kind of built up. Even if it is just kind of, you could set it in pretty much any fantasy thing. It's not an isekai though. It's not an isekai, so don't worry about that. But there is a few unique things. I mean, like I said, we do have some vampire light novels with Monogatari, but we don't have that many in terms of fantasy ones. At least, not from Japan anyway. But it's quite one of those things where I was just like, yeah, I haven't seen this, but yeah, it's kind of just, it's an undead, so yeah, we have seen this. But I'd recommend you guys check this one out. I at least give it a shot. It's one that I was pleasantly surprised with, and at the end of the day, if I'm pleasantly surprised with something, that's something that I would probably give as a good example of, yeah, go check it out. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. And like I said, I'm going to try and get back onto the wagon of doing some light novel reviews. I can do one pretty quickly without kind of worrying too much about stuff. And there is a lot of great light novel titles out there. Subscribe. Subscribe. and leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you guys are reading at the moment, because hey, I always like to have new series to be checking out. See you in that video over there.